once the kids were born, I did like children's liturgy of the word. Then I was on the evangelization commission and started doing Christ life. You know, like involved, showing up, bringing the kids to mass, like, you know, that kind of thing. It actually wasn't until COVID that I realized what I didn't have. Mm-hmm. Because when everything shut down and I couldn't come to mass and there were no more meetings and there were no more programs, it just hit me like, what do I have? Like, where was the real relationship?
You know, you're reminding me of something my dad said. We can be a human doing.
Yeah.
And so you were doing.
That was the problem.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
so you were missing sort of that internal piece, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. That you don't need to have a church that's open.
Right, exactly.
To do.
Exactly.
And so COVID
made me realize that something was missing, mm-hmm. right? And I think that at that point in my life, you know, I'd already kind of done everything. I felt like I'd done everything I could do. You know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. on my own, like, you know, happy marriage, 3 kids, I own a business, have a PhD. You know what I mean? Like, I did some good stuff, but like, that's probably about as far as I was gonna go. Just, that's it. You know, probably downhill from there. I mean, that sounds awful, but.
Well, you know, I think a lot of us sort of check off boxes and we think that.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, I just had to look at it and be like, you know, what else does God want to do with me, right? So I think that as things started to open up after COVID, and Father John had a meeting about the new organizational structure. And so I was at that meeting, and we were looking at the organizational structure, and I'm just thinking about my own experience looking at it, and I'm like, I like the structure, I like how this looks, but who's going to care for all these people? Like, who's going to make sure that we're not just doing because of, like, you know, what I was feeling, right?
Yes.
So after that meeting, Pedro Silva called me and said, would you like to meet for lunch? And so I said, sure. And he's like, I'm really intrigued by the question that you asked at the meeting, and I want to talk to you about that. Mm-hmm. And so that started just like a really nice back and forth with him, with like, he asked me at that meeting, like, would you like to go deeper? Is there any area of your faith life that you'd like to explore? And
wow.
And I said yeah, and I said prayer, because, you know, I'm like, I've been a busy mom for a long time and haven't really had much time to myself, and the mm-hmm. prayer mm-hmm. just kind of tanked. Mm-hmm. And so he started me with reading, and I love reading so much. And so I would, you know, he'd give me a book and I'd come back in like 4 days and be like, done. Let's talk about it. Give me the next one.
Wow.
You know, that kind of thing. So I know he was just like, man, you read everything I give you, which, you know, Pedro has a lot of books.
Yes.
So you've said to me before, how have you read all this stuff?
I know. You've referred me to a million books.
So, so that was like that whole, what was that? 2022 mm-hmm. Was, or I guess it was 22 was like just a really formative year, and just really learning about Mary for the first time, for mm-hmm. real. Like, mm-hmm. I mean, I knew of her, but getting to know her, right? Mm-hmm. The saints, getting to know the saints, especially Saint Teresa, Saint Therese, super, super important to me. Saint John of the Cross, you know, just really diving mm-hmm. into the lives of the saints and their teachings, and it just made me feel like there's so much more. Like, there's so much more than I had, you know.
There's so much more than doing.
Well, right.
Yeah.
And there's so much more. There's this whole interior life that I was missing, and it was all in my head and not so much in my heart, you know what I mean? And so it took, I'd say it took at least a year to start trickling down from head to heart kind of thing. And so it was just like a gradual progression.
Well, you know, I know you're not a cradle Catholic, and I'm not either, and so prayer, I've always thought, is something that's very different between the Protestant and the Catholic faith, and so it's interesting that was your first focal point. And is it because of that COVID realization that
I think so.
You needed to talk to somebody? I mean, or how would you describe that?
Just like I wanted that relationship.
Yeah.
I wanted the relationship with Jesus, and I mean, that's how we talk to him. So that's what I wanted.
That's a no-brainer then. Yeah.
For me, yeah, it felt like, actually, when he asked me the question, he said, what do you want to focus on? I was like, well, the easy, there's like some easy answers that would be easy for me to do because I am interested, like, church history or whatever. But I'm like, but what I need to focus on is prayer.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good thing for a lot of us to think about. Yeah. How much do we know Jesus and how much are we talking and listening to him?
Right.
So you read a lot of books and you got more into the interior life, and so bring us up to date.
Okay.
So the saints and all of that are people that you are also in connection with, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, because we can pray to the saints. Mm-hmm. That's a sticking point for a lot of Protestants, but do you have a favorite saint then? Is it Saint Therese?
Well, it's hard to pick a favorite. That's for different situations.
I know.
I talk to different ones for different things.
But what's your most recent favorite? How about we say that?
Yeah, I think that probably Saint Teresa would be the one who was most influential because of Interior Castle, and just the whole idea of just the incredible beauty of our soul, and how far deep we can go. You know what I mean? And that's the dwelling place of God, and it's just beautiful.
How would you describe the steps for people, if you could put it into steps in getting in touch with that soul? I mean, can you think of
steps?
I mean, if you were talking to your son or somebody, how would you say, well, first you wanna
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's you have to allow the Holy Spirit to show you yourself. I think that's the first part. You have to, first of all, you have to invite the Holy Spirit in. Well, right?
Yeah, right. That's probably right.
That's probably the first step. And so you have to I think that there's actually 3 levels to that. First, you give permission. That's like saying to somebody, come over to my house anytime. Yeah. Right? Which is kind of nice, but it's not really an invitation. Right. So that's like the surface level. Then there's invitation, where you say,
please come
Thursday at 6:00.
Right.
That's an invitation. Yeah. That's another level deeper. But then there's something even deeper than that. That's desire. And that's when you say, I need to talk to you. Where are you? I will come to you. We need to talk. We're going to get together. Yeah. Right. And so I think that you go through those 3 levels.
I like that. That's really good. I think it's real easy for us to stay on that first level, the service level, and say, oh yeah, I go to church, and the Holy Spirit's welcome anytime. But
also, then when you ask the Holy Spirit, show me to myself, be specific, because God's not going to do something that you haven't given permission for. There's a reason why we have free will. Yeah. So be specific. You can plumb my depths. You can explore my memories and my imagination, my passions, and just my body and the way that my body processes everything that happens in my day. You know what I mean? And then show that to me so I can see it, because when you do that, you can start to see wow, this is how disordered I am. And I think that's the key. When you can start to see that and there was a point last summer probably that I was realizing all this stuff about my life and just going to reconciliation a lot. Not in a scrupulous way, but just oh my gosh, and this too, you know what I mean? I didn't even realize that, and so then as I did that more and more, and I think entered more fully into a state of grace, that it just opened things up.
Yeah, and you know what? I think if we truly want this kind of openness and insight and a deeper walk, we have to believe the Holy Spirit's really going to do that.
Yep.
We say things but how often do we really believe that they're going to do what you just said? You know, I mean, I've been getting worked on big time.
Yeah.
And, you know, it just hit me with what you said. You know, if you've given him permission, he's going to take you up on it.
Yeah. He's waiting. He's longing for us, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like just waiting for us to say, okay, it's time. You know?
Yeah, I just thought of something, you know, like our kids say, or even I've thought, I texted him, but he didn't text me back.
No.
It's like God's got this open text waiting, but he wants more than a text, just for the record, right? Well, so you've gotten involved in a lot of things. What has been a meaningful thing that you've got involved in the doing category
the doing
as
stuff.
A result of some of the inner work you've done?
I think that my doing now is really different.
Yeah, I was going to ask that question first, really.
Yeah, my doing now is really different because it all stems from prayer. Surprise.
Yeah.
And so it's just more of like, I have to be filled up. First of all, I know that a lot of the stuff I'm doing is not me. You know, I can't, I'm not.
In your own power, you mean.
In my own power, yeah. I'm not a, like, insightful person, and you know, I wouldn't say that I could ever give anyone really good spiritual advice, like, in my own power. You know what I mean? Like, I think that it's just that, you know, spending time in prayer, getting filled up, and then being able to go and spend time with people. And that's the best part. Yeah. You know, just being able to talk to people about their life and their journey and their struggles and their traumas, and like entering into those places with them, and just, I don't know, just being there.
Being a disciple means not just sort of a teaching role, but a being role. I keep using that word, but you know, compassion, love, time, listening, all of that.
Right.
And I think that's what most of us want, you know, but I think we're also afraid of it.
Yeah. We talk about, in a women's group, we talk about friendships of virtue. And so there's 3 levels of friendship. And so one level is, I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I think it's like a friendship of utility. You know what I mean? Just surface level kind of, I just know you because we run into each other, or we carpool together or something like that. That's like the first level of friendship.
Right.
And it doesn't really go deeper. Then there's a friendship of pleasure, which is what most of us have. And so we might like the same music, or we like the same kind of food, or, you know, something like that. And so we engage in those things together. And so that's what our friendship is based on. But a friendship of virtue is where you want heaven for your friend. And you're going to enter into the hard places and maybe even challenge that person sometimes, if they need it, you know what I mean? And be welcome to them doing it for you too. And then, you know, just being there to continually like push each other and support each other, and that's what it's all about. I really think that's what Jesus wants us to do.
Yeah.
You know?
He wants that kind of depth for us, because that's, you know, I mean, really, we're getting prepared to be in heaven with a lot of intimacy there.
That's right.
You know, and so we can't afford to stay scared of intimacy.
Yeah.
You know, the whole life we have to practice.
That's right. That's so true.
Well, you know, if you were to give someone, I guess, sort of the basic advice for how to take the journey with Jesus, somebody that's, well, like somebody I just met in the parking lot. I saw him walk across to the church and then walk back to his car, and I thought he was looking for something. So I stopped, and he said, well, I'm in the neighborhood, and I live here, and I just wanted to check you out. Right? And so I sort of forgot where I was going, but it's but I think most people need the invitation, and so I took time to stand and talk to him.
Nice. Yeah.
And so we want depth and vulnerability, which I think is where I was going. But, you know, we're sort of like, you know, do I step on the ice? Is it gonna Is it gonna break if I step on it? So
you know, something that's been really powerful for a lot of people, I don't know about your friend in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You do have to have at least a little bit of a background knowledge of the gospel for this to work. But doing Ignatian prayer, where you...
Oh, yes, I love that. Go ahead.
Where you picture yourself like in a Bible story. Yeah. You're there. And so you could be one of the people in the story, or you could be just you, like kind of off to the side, or, you know, something like that, or like a little kid who's just in the scene but not really interacting, or you could be one of the main people. And so putting yourself into the story and actually experiencing it. And then, because think about, how do we develop a relationship with people? We do stuff together. Mm-hmm. We talk to each other. Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't we develop a relationship with Jesus in the same way?
Right.
And my favorite way to do this is when Jesus was a child. And then you picture yourself as a child, and you go enter the holy house. Now you've got Mary, and you've got Joseph, and you've got Jesus right there. And you're just there. You're just there. You just picture yourself there, and what's happening? What's happening around you? And just let it go. Just let it roll. And that's prayer. I mean, it's imagination, but it's prayer too. You know?
Yes, that's true.
And so over time, with these kind of experiences, and you really feel like, oh, I actually feel like I'm friends with Jesus, you know, or I really know Mary, right? It just changes. It just changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, there you have it, folks. I think this has been a great introduction into deepening your journey. And Kim, thank you so much for sharing yours.
Yeah.
We invite you to go deeper and take those times of imagination and think about prayer on a regular basis. You might be surprised what you find. So, thanks for joining us, and stay tuned for the next journey.